fear in the last 48 hours that we may be heading towards a major fuel crisis. Why? Because fuel workers are on strike. When I talk about fuel workers, there are a few of them, and let's break it down for you. So you have the LPG Marketers Association. They sell the LPG. So when you go to buy your gas, right, you take your gas cylinder, they will make sure that you get your gas cylinder filled. And as you may have noticed since Monday, you've been turned away when you get to the station to buy your gas. So they're on strike. They said they are not working. You have the Ghana LPG Operators Association. They're also part of that. And then now, in solidarity with that group, we've had the Tanker Drivers Association of Ghana also joining. And I must say that this group, it's possibly one of the most potentially more damaging when it comes to the impact of this, because they are those who cart the petrol and the diesel to the filling stations, to your favorite filling station. So assuming that this begins to take hold beyond the last 3 days, it's the third day now, what is likely to happen is you will see a situation where your favorite filling station, you might turn up there to get petrol into your car or diesel, and they'll say they don't have petrol, they don't have diesel because the tankers have not delivered the petrol or the diesel because they're on strike. That is a real threat. And as you know, fuel is a national security issue. And it is a reason why we understand that as of tonight, Cabinet is meeting. One of the things we'll be talking about is dealing with the concerns that have triggered the strike by these three groups that possibly may lead to a proper nationwide crisis when it comes to fuel. So we may hear pretty soon, once Cabinet is done, a decision. The minister had given us an indication of what might happen. We'll come to that pretty shortly at the end of the Cabinet meeting. What are the demands, though? These are the demands they put forward: lifting the ban on stations which were already under construction before the imposition of the ban in 2017. What happened then is, you remember the atomic gas explosion. In the wake of that explosion, government froze or placed a ban on the construction of new gas terminals. So there were a few of them, more than 100 we are told, that were in the process of being finished. These terminals were in the process of being completed. Government stopped it at various stages of completion, and it's been more than 5 years. The projects are still stalled. That's one of the key concerns they have. They said government should lift that ban so they can continue. Some of them say they have borrowed money to construct, to start the buildings. And the money that they borrowed and taking loans on the banks are demanding that they pay back. And so that's one of the fundamental reasons they've gone on strike. They also want government to lift the ban on the construction of the new LPG stations that I've just described, better working conditions. One of the other demands that they put forward is the concerns that have been raised by the tanker drivers themselves. They talk about unfair treatment of the petroleum tanker drivers by BOST. As a BOST is the Bulk Oil Storage Transportation Company and the MPA. Now, they make the point that the introduction of the seals and tracking devices on petroleum tankers has caused some unfair treatments, and some drivers are wrongly accused of tampering with the seals. There was a time when the National Petroleum Authority became very concerned because we had a lot of adulterated fuel in the system, and the allegation was that the tanker drivers in the transit, whilst they were sending the petrol and diesel, stopped somewhere and they siphon some of the product, and then they pour in maybe water, so they can attain the same liters, and then they dispatch that into your vehicles, and they skim that off and they make extra money of that. And so to avoid that, the MPA then decides to bring in a seal regime. So they will attach a seal after you've loaded your product, and that seal should not be broken in transit. So when you get to the station owners will break the seal. That is a quality assurance process, and the tanker drivers are complaining about that. So that's one of the reasons why they've complained. Now, according to the LPG Association, they say that the uncompleted, stations they did they valued it, right? They valued it at $10 million. So which means that they've pumped $10 million into these 100 or so stations that have been left uncompleted, and they need that to complete so they can pay off their loans and make money back. And they are unable to pay their staff because of this. That's a fundamental reason why they've called the strike. We know that this has now become an issue where the minority had jumped in for obvious reasons. This has national security implications when it comes to fuel, so it's gaining a lot of attention. The minority says the consumption of the LPG has been a decline since January 2022 because of problems such as this, partly on account of the obnoxious taxes imposed by the government. The 2017 atomic gas explosion, at least 21 stations were closed. On the back of that explosion, 21 stations were closed on the back of that in 2017. And if you look at the national picture right now, in terms of OMCs, that your favorite station where you go to buy petrol, according to the MPA, there are 170 of them, right? So they may begin to feel the pinch of the strike also, because those who deliver the petrol and diesel to them are on strike. And you come to the LPG, those who sell to you your gas, and I know you've been turned away, many of you, there are 42 of them across the country according to the MPA. In terms of the BDCs, this will affect them. I mean, because they bring in the bulk product. But just for information, there are 37 of them. Now, if you look at the country, list of bulk road vehicles without MPA's tracking devices, 317 vehicles currently, according to the MPA. So that's a significant number. And the MPA wants to make sure that that is checked. So how do you avert this crisis? Do you feel that these concerns are legitimate? Almost holding all of us to ransom. And I know many of you have turned away. You can't find gas to buy. You need to cook. I mean, some commercial drivers use gas as a primary fuel in their vehicle. So many people have been left in the lurch here on the back of this crisis. Let's try and drill down. We'll speak to the Energy Ministry. Maybe get the latest from the cabinet meeting. Maybe we'll try and get that for you if you stay with us. We'll speak to those on strike as well and get a minority take on this also. Stay with me. My guest joining me in the studio this evening is Gabriel Kumi. He's a vice chairman of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana. Joining me via Zoom is Sunday Alabi. He's the national vice chairman of the Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union. Also joining me is Kwesi Obin Fosu. He's a public relations officer with the Ministry of Energy. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time on PM Express. Let me start with you, Gabriel. In the last few days, I mean, a lot of customers have been left, with a lot of agony when they visit your centers because you're not working, okay? And I've just explained what your issues are. It boils down to this ban that was placed on you 2017 in the wake of the explosion that hasn't been lifted. Okay. I think you told me that there are more than 20 uncompleted stations?
120.
100. Okay.
122.
Uncompleted stations, amounting to $10 million. But I need to ask the question, it's been 5 years. Why now? Why do you decide to take this action at this point?
Thank you very much, Evans. I mean, we are taking this action now because we've gotten to a stage where the collaterals we use to secure these facilities are being attacked by the banks. The banks are now taking over our houses to defray some of these debts. I mean, to be honest, 2 of our members have died out of frustration. Just about a month ago, one of our elders, his house was invaded by the bank and the police. They took away every single movable property from the house, including the beds he lays on. We have gotten to a stage where if we don't act, a lot of our members are going to go into very, 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 very serious problems. And that is why we are acting now. I mean, it's been 5 years, as you just said. We have had a lot of engagement with the ministry and the MPA. But what it is that this decision was taken by cabinet. The Minister of Energy has no power to vary the decision of cabinet, neither the MPA chief executive. To be honest with you, we intercepted some document that MPA prepared to cabinet through the Ministry of Energy. And the Minister of Energy also supported that with a memo. And we intercepted that document and it got to cabinet. But nothing comes out of cabinet. The Minister of Energy and the Chief Executive of MPA, Mustafa Hamid, have done a lot to support this cause. They can't come out openly to tell you that they have done all that, but our intel tells us, and the documents we have intercepted tells us that they have done all that they need to do to get this ban lifted. We haven't even called for a lifting of our main wish is to completely lift the ban on construction of LPG entirely, so that we can expand the
So not only were you not able to finish, but they also stopped you from building new ones?
Completely.
So from 2017 to now, no new
LPG station has come up.
Okay.
From 2017, October.
Let's understand, what was the reason for that policy decision?
You know, in October 2017, there was a massive explosion in Ghana.
Yeah.
That really,
at
Atomic Junction, that really shook the nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was quite an unfortunate incident that we all regret. May the souls of those who lost their life in that unfortunate incident rest in perfect peace. After that incident, Cabinet came up with a lot of measures to ensure that we protect Ghanaians and we protect the safety of Ghanaians. So we in the industry cooperated fully with MPA in implementing those decisions. One decision that we raised red flag on is the decision to stop construction of LPG stations in Ghana.
But what reason did they give for that particular intervention? Is it that the ones you were constructing were found not to meet the safety requirements?
No, that was not the reason. One of the main reasons why that happened was the fact that government wanted to introduce a new policy called the cylinder recirculation model. In fact, that explosion really ignited the need for government to introduce that intervention. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the system we have is so entrenched in such a way that if you want to adopt a new strategy, you need to adopt a very cool head and go at it at a very gradual pace. But because the explosion gave birth to this rush to introduce cylinder recirculation. And that is one of the main reasons why all construction of LPG station was banned.
And cylinder recirculation is what? What was the policy?
It's what we call the Coca-Cola model, mm-hmm. where we have about 2 or 3 or 4 large refilling plants. And what it does is that instead of filling the gas at the stations as we have in it now, you go and fill the gas, the cylinders at the plant, and then transport the filled cylinders into the communities. Mm-hmm. So that if your gas gets finished, you leave the empty cylinder, you go to where the exchange point is, you give your empty cylinder to the guys there, and pick up a filled one and pay for the gas. So, like you buy your normal Coca-Cola.
But that will take you out of business, would it not?
That will not take out. So
you will be the connection between the huge plant and the customers.
Exactly.
So you feel that.
Exactly. Okay. We will be the ones to. So we will go for the cylinders from that plant.
Okay, so I get it. So the intention of government was that don't construct new ones, because the ultimate policy is that we are going to do away with all these small outlets and build a big one.
Yes, but our point was that all these outlets, the cylinder recirculation model, you need exchange points. So the intention was that all these outlets,
you become an exchange point.
They will be. So they will serve as
one was close to my house, instead of going there, taking my gas cylinder and going to fill, mm-hmm. I'll just simply walk there and pick a fill cylinder,
and then leave the empty one there.
And your point is that 5 years on, you haven't implemented that policy.
Exactly.
And yet you say
don't construct.
Okay, so stay with me. Let me bring in your other colleague, Sunday Alabi. Sunday, I heard the sound of a loud vehicle behind you, and I'm assuming that will be a tanker that's about to move. And from what I understand, you also call the strike. But I don't understand your issue. That you are complaining about the seal that was the seal policy that was introduced on your tankers. Why is that an issue? Isn't that a good policy? Sani Alabi, please unmute for me. Sani Alabi, please unmute for me. Is he on? Okay, Sani Alabi, please unmute for me because I know you're there. Okay, let's try and fix Sani Alabi's issue. Sunday, can you hear me? Let me bring in Kwesi Obing-Fosu on this one. I'll bring in Sunday shortly because let's try and help Sunday fix his audio challenge. Kwesi is the Public Relations Officer with the Energy Ministry. Kwesi, so you've heard the explanation. The decision to impose this ban, from what I understand, the ministry agrees has outlived its usefulness. Do I understand right?
All right, Evans, let me say good evening to you and viewers. The decision to lift this ban, just as my brother Kumi has stated, there's a lot of justification for us to consider in order to lift this ban. First of all, we all agree that these companies are 100% owned by Ghanaians with huge investments in the projects at various levels of completion, up to the tune of about 60 million cedis. So we need to consider the social impact on the existing debts that they've spoken about over the period. Also, most of these are sited at areas where there are no LPG refilling or vending points. So there are a lot of justifications for us to lift this ban. And that is why I said earlier on another program that due to these justifications, government is considering the memo placed before Cabinet today that these marketing companies that are Ghanaian companies need to be back in business in order to enable them recoup their investments and then support their transport workers as well. So as you rightly said in the beginning of the program, these transporters are on strike in solidarity with their employers. So if you ask for the justification for the lifting of the ban, I believe it is in order. We need also to fast track the implementation of the cylinder recirculation model, and because of that, these agitations will not help us if we want to implement that as well. So yes, it is also in the interest of government to ensure that these agitations and strikes are over, so that we can all be back serving the interest of Ghanaians, so that we can roll out the cylinder recirculation model. Because if we put these ongoing projects to use, don't forget, it is not just it does not just involve the gas refilling points. It also has something to do with the white products, that is the petrol, diesel, premix, and the kerosene as well. Moreover, if these ones are back in place, what the AOMCs petitioned Cabinet through the minister, Evans, I believe you've seen the petition. It actually included 86 of these companies. The ban was placed on 86, but 25 were taken out due to the lack of any permit or documentation to support their application. So the remaining 61 were found eligible for this special dispensation request. So as we speak, we are talking about the 61. And these 61s, if we are able to lift the ban as we speak, Cabinet will come out in the next few days to tell us what their decision is on the lifting of the ban. If this happens, then we believe these 61 ongoing projects that are at various levels of completion will also start working on converting these ones into gas exchange points, cylinder exchange points, to help with the cylinder recirculation model. So yes, it is long overdue, and I believe, just as I stated, the memos submitted by Dr. Matuoku Prempeh to Cabinet, I believe, will be considered, and then we will all see an end to this strike.
And the question has been, when will the ban be lifted? From what I understand, the Cabinet meeting is today.
Yes, it has actually ended. Okay. So the outcome of the Cabinet meeting will be communicated very, very soon.
Is it positive?
Oh, no. So the regulator of the space, that is NPA, will communicate to us as to the outcome of the cabinet meeting. I believe we are all not happy with the situation we find ourselves in, because we cannot be living in a country where a group of people who are supposed to provide us with such an essential service hold all of us to ransom.
Okay.
You believe, just as I stated earlier today, we all know that most of the issues raised has to do with the marketing companies and their employers, their employees as well. It is not that the one that has to do with government is the ban. So if government is to come out today and then tell us, give us something positive, I believe they will also call off the strike and then go home and sit with their transporters and gas workers and then strike their differences out, work out their discrepancies in their working conditions, and ensure that they give them good services, as government also fulfills its part of the obligation.
And Mr. Obi, if you stay with me, I'll go to Sunday Alabi shortly, but he's made a point there that even when the ban is lifted, it will only affect 61 of your members, not the 120 you mentioned.
Well, that is quite strange to us, because we had presented a list of 122 to NPA. So, but the NPA hasn't gotten back to us to say that, and these were all backed by documents, by permits. So NPA hasn't gotten back to us to say that maybe some of them does not have, but those are, for us, the most important thing is to be able to lift the ban. I mean, then we can go into the numbers and then look at the numbers closely and see whether they should be 61 or they should be 100 or they should be. But on our booths, we have 122 stations that were at various stages of construction that a ban had been placed
But
on.
do you accept, though, or admit, that this 120, not all of them had the requisite permit to even begin construction?
Well, it's up to NPA to tell us that.
And I guess that's what the ministry is doing, communicating that to you, that they possibly, I'm pretty sure that the spokesperson for the energy ministry would have done that check, and
Well,
that's what he's communicating.
We whatever list we also presented to NPA, we backed them up with
Are you saying
permit.
all 120 had the right permit?
It's
to begin?
possible some of them may not have the requisite permits,
Okay.
but it will not be that magnitude. It will not be as much as almost half of.
There's only 61 really.
Yeah. So we for those numbers, we can always challenge that, because, I mean, facts are facts. A document is a document. So we will go home, put together our documents again, and then maybe when we sit with NPA, we can do that reconciliation and then see which ones are, what the number really is. So that those are issues of reconciliation. Those are administrative issues that we can really go into.
I mean, Sunday Alabi, if you can hear me, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. So your issue is slightly different. I'm curious, why are you unhappy with the tracking system and the seal system that the MPA introduced?
Okay, the reason why we are unhappy is that the sealing system, when the policy came, we challenged the policy. But because it's a government policy, we allow it to roll. But in few times, a truck loaded in Kumasi indicates that he has tempered in Fijai. How could a truck be in Kumasi be tempered in Fijai? A truck was loading at the bus depot at APD. The truck was inside the gantry, and they said the truck has tempered at Nkoko. The truck was loading in the gantry at Chase, and they said the truck has tempered, which the truck has not even come out yet from the gantry. So all these challenges are causing the drivers harm. And about 76 drivers are home now because of this electronic sealing.
Because their bosses fired them. Is that what it is?
Their bosses fired them because they've wrote to them. They bound their companies for 1 month and staff. So the transporter wants to justify himself. He will write back to the authorities, oh, I have fired my driver, so allow me to work. As we speak, one is even in the verge of process going to court. I don't know why they want to send him to court. So these are the challenges we are facing. And this electronic sealing it works with the network. as we know, the system in this country is not the best. You can be holding your phone and there's network on it, but they will tell you there's no network. When it happens like that, the gadget triggered. So when it triggers, then it's tempering. Then it's the fault of the driver, which is not. All these things it's a worry to us. That's why we say they should look at it very well, because if they don't do that, the trained drivers are leaving the system. Then untrained one will come back to the system, and exactly what we don't want to be happening in the system will still happen. That is why we said they should look at it very well.
So when you say look at it very well, what is it? Would you want the MPA to stop tracking or placing the seal, or what is the alternative?
They can sell it's their duty to regulate the product. It's their duty to take care of the product. We are not challenging that one. Mm-hmm. But proper gadgets should be put on it. I don't want to fight for one company and leave the other, but there's a gadget we've been using before. That one determines the volume of the product. When it's contaminated, it determines it. By this electronic seal, when you temper it, what are you tempering? Is it the product? Are you adulterating? Are you siphoning? It doesn't speak about it. But the other one speaks about all these things. When this sealing was coming, they told us that all these two work parallel. But what are we seeing? They are taking the old one out. As Mr. Kumi said earlier, you don't put a policy that you've not started and kick the one you have already out. We have a gadget already in the system which is working. We've not started using this one, and we are kicking the other one out. And this one is giving us problems.
But Sunday, you said that you had one before, but that one, many said wasn't working. We still had an issue with the adulteration. I mean, you talk about it does looks at the volumes. I mean, there have been many reports of drivers stopping in the middle of the transporting the product, pouring in water and siphoning. I mean, we've had those reports. Isn't it clear that process wasn't working?
No, it is not so, because somebody's not doing his job well. It's for them to monitor. That means they are not monitoring the gadgets. For what reasons? I don't know. They need to monitor the gadgets. They are not monitoring the gadgets. And it's not for me to speak. We have so many things in our minds now under our sleeves that we have. But this is not the right time to talk about them now, because this is about the electronic seal and the opening of the gas filling stations that ban have been placed on. After that, when we get to the table, we'll address all the other issues there.
I mean, since you started the strike, have you had any meetings or contact from the MPA on resolving your issue?
Yeah, we received a letter on Monday for a meeting. But as at that time, all the executives across the country came, and we were having a meeting in Tema. So we finished the meeting 5 p.m., so we were not able to meet them. But today we received a letter that we need to meet at the ministries on Friday, 10 a.m. We received a letter today. Okay,
so you'll go for that meeting?
We'll go for that meeting.
I mean, Mr. Obiofosu, can you confirm that meeting, and what's on the agenda? What's the plan? Are you sympathetic to what their concerns are? Sorry, please unmute for me.
Yeah, Evans, just as the minister stated earlier, you know, when they came out with their release on Sunday, the next day, Monday, as at 10 o'clock in the morning, the minister was seated and waiting for them. As we all know, Dr. Matumogu Prempeh is one of the ministers that run an open door policy when it comes to union agitations, strikes, and other things. We saw him when he was at the Ministry of Education, where the unions were always happy with how he handled issues when it comes to strikes and then agitations of this sort. So on Monday, as at 10 o'clock, the minister was seated waiting for them, but they couldn't another invitation due to unforeseen circumstances that they have explained. Moving forward through NPA, we are arranging to meet them. But you see, just as I said, if by close of day tomorrow is a holiday, close of day tomorrow or early morning tomorrow, we hear from NPA on deliberations from cabinet, I believe that will inform their next action. And then right after that announcement, if there's a need for us to sit to deliberate on the other issues, our doors are always open. The minister is ready to engage them, just as he has stated. So they are welcome. We run an open door policy at the ministry. the government has stated that we should always lend an listening ear to all our stakeholders. So yes.
But the cabinet consideration doesn't include the tankers concern, does it? It's only about the LPG.
Now the petition from, as we were asking him, on the 16th of April 2021, they petitioned cabinet through the Honorable Minister. And the list that they brought were just 86 from their own petition.
I'm talking about the concerns regarding the seals and the electronic, gadgets that were put on the tanker. That is not part of the cabinet consideration, is it?
No. What is before cabinet is their petition on the lifting of the ban.
On the lifting of the ban. Okay.
Of the ban.
I mean, but on what
with the other issues, the other issues came up in their release, the press release that they brought. It wasn't part of the issues on the table. These issues were just added in their release, the recent one that they brought out on Sunday. So that is where NPA must sit with them. On the general, Evans, you agree with me that when you put in checks and balances, you put in systems to check some of these things, not everybody will be happy or will be willing to cooperate. We don't accept change sitting down. So what my brother is saying, if there are issues, Mr. Alabi, if there are issues with the newly introduced tracking devices or system, I believe it will be pockets of issues. It will not be a general issue because not everybody is complaining about it. So if the tracker is able to track and beep and then give signal as to what is happening at every point in time, if we sit and then we discuss and realize that no, this beep, I believe some of the instances that he quoted, if it happens that a vehicle is at the gantry point and then there's a signal to the tracking system that something is happening, and then you're able to prove that you've not even moved out of the gantry and then this thing triggered, I believe we can sit and discuss this and then find an amicable solution to it. So it is not something that we can sit here and say on the general, the tracking system has failed. It is working. It is helping NPA to track that space. That notwithstanding, even in the tanks at the various vending points, the tracking system has been installed deep down in the tank, and it is informing the NPA of the level of fuel quality and stuffs. So not just adulterating and diversion and siphoning, it is also doing more than we all know. So I believe if there are issues with it, we shouldn't just condemn the whole system in its entirety. We should just look at the various issues, sit and discuss, and then iron things out and move on. So in order to at least police that space, the regulator has all the rights to put in the system that will help the check.
Mr. Ofosu, stay with me. I mean, Sandy Alabi, he has a point, has he not? That there are isolated instances. It's not enough basis to say, well, I'm calling a strike until you fix it. I mean, you're holding the entire country to ransom.
We have talked about this several times.
Sorry, Mr. Ofosu, hold on for me. Let me hear from Sandy Alabi.
We have discussed this issue severally. It's not only about those ones. There are instances we followed up and they admitted that it's an error. But you have sent a letter ahead and the driver has been dismissed. Those are the issues we're talking about. So to do their work diligently. And sorry to say this, I want to clear the air here because the minister made an unfortunate statement this morning that they don't know the tanker drivers. And the tanker drivers are not Togolese. They are Ghanaians. So if you make a statement that you don't know the tanker drivers, if you don't know the tanker drivers and they are sitting down, then what else again? So some statements that they've been saying every day, please, they should watch it. Those are the things too that triggers issues. You are working with somebody is helping the Ghana economy, somebody is also contributing to the GDP of this country, and you are saying you don't know them. It's an unfortunate statement. I want to make that point clear. Now, let's go to the seal.
Evans.
Yeah, so hold on, Ms. Alabi, but let me come to Obin Fosu. The minister made that statement today. It must have been on Peace FM.
I've been with the minister throughout all the media engagements he's had from yesterday to this morning. I don't recall the minister saying that he does not know the tanker drivers. What I recall is the minister saying the tanker drivers are providing services, essential services, just as and we have our taxi drivers, our truck drivers. So the tanker drivers have transport owners, and they are accountable to their transport owners. They don't deal directly with the government of Ghana or the ministry. So if there are issues which has to do with conditions of service and other stuff, it bestows on the transport owners to ensure that their drivers are well catered for. So by this statement, it doesn't say that there's no tanker drivers. If it does not no tanker drivers, if you're on strike and the fuel or the commodity is not getting to the vending points, that is why we are here, where we are today. So that statement cannot come from the minister. He was making a comparison with the services other essential service providers provide in this country, who do not fall directly under the government of Ghana, but they are employed by individuals, businessmen, who also contribute to the national development.
Yeah,
he was making that instance.
Yeah, I mean,
but not to say,
thanks for the clarity. But Ms. Alabi, but that makes sense, does it not? I mean, you are employed by Mr. Gabriel Kumi, for example, to transport product for him. If you have an issue, and this is an HR issue, and he sacks you, you take it up with him. I mean, and he will then take it up with MPA. I mean, so why are you almost shifting this onto the MPA directly?
No, you see, our system of working is different from the taxi drivers and the cargo drivers he is talking about. And I still insist, I have the recording. He said so. His first statement, we don't know the tanker drivers. That one is on record. Mm-hmm. Because the reason why I'm saying this is that it is true that we are employed by our employers, not by government, but we are employed by the government indirectly. Because when our employers employed us, or when they went for the contract, in the contract there, the drivers are in the contract there to be taken care of in there by the government.
Okay.
MPA is aware, the ministry is aware. So we know we are not being employed directly by the government, yes. But our service, we render service to the government.
Okay.
It's not like ours is not like the taxi drivers and the cargo drivers.
Okay, I think you made that point. I think you made that point. Stay with me. Let me get some perspective from Gabriel. Gabriel, you own an outlet. So what's your perspective on this? I'm pretty sure drivers transport your product for you.
That's right.
Have you had cause to fire any driver?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Evans.
So Ofosu Obeng has a point, has he not? That it's you should be taking the thing up with the MPA, not the drivers.
Yes. It's yes and no. You see, it's all about communication. The Labi's point he made, I think I also listened to our Honorable Minister, okay. And he made that point. And look at the way the drivers have taken it. You see, it's the way you put it. Yes, it's in terms of administration, you might not have any direct relationship with them. But if you go out there and throw that at them, we don't know you, it creates a certain impression and it creates a certain friction. So for me, just as my brother, the PRO, is right in his explanation, I think the way we communicate sometimes also send the wrong signal. I will not sit here to pretend that there is nothing like diversion and all those things. I mean, in every...
By drivers?
By drivers. I will not sit here to pretend that does not happen. In every institution, in every human institution, there are bad nuts, okay? But genuinely, there are issues with the tracking system we are using presently. Let me give you a very typical example. We load products from Atuabo. We have one of our members, Mambagas. He has a depot in Takoradi. So when his trucks loads in Atuabo, they all come and sleep over at the depot in Takoradi. Then the next morning, his liaison officer will dispatch them. In 1 month, the tracker was indicating that all the trucks that were loaded in Takoradi, it was about 20-something of them, and came to park at the depot loaded in Atuabo and came to park in the depot at Takoradi, all discharged the products at that place. That was what the tracker was indicating. When he followed up and they did the investigation proved that all those trucks continued their journeys to Kumasi and to the north and to Sunyani or to other places. So all the UPPF claims he made on that month were rejected because the tracking system was saying that, for instance, if you have said that, if you are claiming that the truck went to Tamale, the tracking system is telling MPA that the truck discharged at Takoradi. So they are going to pay transport to only up to Takoradi, and they are not going to pay to Tamale or to Sunyani or to Kumasi. This happened.
Yeah, but that's easy to correct, isn't it? Because it's easy to verify. And so you can correct that by,
yes,
if they paid only for Takoradi,
yes,
then they'll pay you once it's verified.
Yes, but why must we go through that process of correction when we can have a system that can track the truck to where delivery was made?
So what is the alternative?
The alternative is not about alternative. It's about trying to fix a problem on the tracker. It has a genuine problem that the drivers are talking about. It's a genuine problem.
But is the solution a strike?
Some of us, Evans, in Chi, you say, assemble confanipannante. It's not about the tracking system which is leading to all this.
So there are other issues.
There are other issues. There are a combination of issues. The main one of which is the lockdown of these stations that a ban has been put on them for the past 5 years. I mean, there are other tangential. When you have, there's the main issue, and there are other issues that will come up.
So, because another thing I had, Sunday Alabi, so if today, and as we've heard, the cabinet lifts the ban, because I know some of your members are affected, because if his outlet can't operate, it has a ripple effect on the jobs that the drivers will have, because if it doesn't operate, you don't take deliveries anymore.
Of course.
And therefore, some of your staff drivers will be unemployed. So I see the link there. So I'm asking you, your problem may take longer to fix, but if government lift the ban tonight, will you call off your strike, Mr. Alabi?
When the government lifts the ban?
The ban on the LPG outlets to start construction, will you call off the strike?
We'll call off the strike by dialoguing the rest of the issue and find a solution to them.
Okay.
So you see, that is the main issue now.
The spokesperson for the Energy Ministry has said that cabinet is meeting, they sympathize with you, they're confident. Why don't you call off a strike tomorrow morning? Because in good faith, because you know cabinet is meeting, you know a proposal has been sent.
Yes.
Will you call it off tomorrow morning?
Yes, I mean, he just said that cabinet has just finished the meeting. Yes. I have picked intelligence that a communication is going to come up tonight. Okay. I'm not going to sleep. Our executive are not going to sleep tonight. We are waiting for that communication. We've spoken to MPA that whatever that communication is, they should relay to us. And even if we are to issue a press release and instructions to our members across the country to start working tomorrow morning, we will do that if we receive the necessary communication. Tomorrow morning? Yes, we have traveled a long way. We have come a long way. It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. Even your child at home, if you need something and you keep telling him, tomorrow I'll give it to you, tomorrow comes, you don't give. Oh, next week I'll give it to you, next week comes, you don't give. Next month I'll give it to you. You even lose credibility before your own kid at home. And that is what has happened. We have had a series of promises. And I will always heap praises on MPA and the Ministry of Energy. They have done a lot, to be very honest with you. We have intercepted documents that they have sent to cabinet that back our case. So the issue is with cabinet now, and we are happy cabinet is meeting. And our intelligence tells us that it's one of the main issues which were discussed today. So we are very hopeful that a positive outcome is going to come, just as my brother, the communication.
But you don't want to call it off in good faith whilst you wait to see the document.
We have exercised. Look, do you know the number of times these drivers have attempted to go on strike? That we have stepped in to call off these strikes? About 4 times. In all the occasions, we step in and say, guys, let's see what the ministry is doing. Let's see what the MPA is doing. Let's go back to work. Now, in fact, if we attempt to go and tell them to do that, some of us will be slaughtered. We've gotten to that stage. So let's all wait. Cabinet has finished its meeting. It's done. I'm sure by this time, whatever...
Until see the communication.
Until we see the communication, it will be very difficult for leadership to go back to membership and tell them that go back to work.
You know what
what are we going
What I find interesting is you're a private businessman.
And
for 3 days, you decided not to make money.
Exactly. It tells you what is chasing us is very big. For a private, in this COVID-19 era, in this Ukraine-Russia war era, in these hard times, for a private man to wake up in the morning and say, I've locked up my business, that fits me. It tells you that something big is chasing that person. Look, as I sit here now, some of us have not even been able to pay salaries. We have Ghana Revenue Authority, we have to pay taxes every 2 weeks. This morning I was asking my finance manager whether we have enough to meet our tax obligations on Friday. So it's not an easy decision for us to take at all. It's a very, very, very difficult decision. But if we don't take that decision, I don't know what will happen to our members.
Okay. I mean, Alabi, how many of your drivers have lost their jobs because of this ban? And
76.
Sorry, say again.
76.
76. They've been asked to stay home.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so you hope that once the ban is lifted, they will be re-employed?
We have to go back to their employers and negotiate and beg on their behalf.
Okay.
Which we've started with some. And they promise us that, okay, when things go down, they'll start picking them back.
Okay. Will you pick them back?
Definitely. We have look, when the example I gave, the member example I gave, he nearly sacked all his drivers until he went personally to NPA to do serious investigation, and he realized that his drivers were not at fault. So genuinely, I'm not trying to downplay the fact that there are some bad nuts within the system who will try to siphon fuel and do all this stuff. Okay. But genuinely, the current tracking system we are using, there are genuine problems that we need to fix.
And if you get a license, if you get the ban lifted and you begin again, for those drivers who you have to lay off because of the challenge with the ban, he says, they want to negotiate for them to be re-employed. Would that happen?
Definitely. We will look at them case by cases, and there are some which may also be a genuine fault of the driver. Those ones we can't vouch for them. But we look at them case by cases, and those that we think the drivers are not at fault, why? We will take them. They are always our employees, and they've done a lot for us.
Yeah. Obin Fosu, I mean, you're confident. I mean, you've heard both sides now. The drivers say, even if they can't solve the tracking issues immediately, if Cabinet agrees to lift the ban tonight, tomorrow when the drivers will go back, the LPG will go back, and your problem will solve for now. That is good news, but you don't have the final decision yet? Because they want to see it first.
That is a fact.
I'm sure he has it, but he doesn't want to communicate it. He wants to come. He wants it to come from the right source.
Do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it?
Evans, Mr. Kumi, he just wants to put me on the spot. But let me just say this. What Alabi said is a fair comment to make. You come out with a release, and then the release has new issues that were not on the table. What we are talking about for 5 years has got nothing to do with tracking systems and conditions of service. Mm-hmm. It has to do with the ban. Yeah. Okay. And then I find something interesting here. The way we are linking the ban to the tracking systems or the loss of jobs by transporters or drivers. How can the ban cause 70 or so workers to lose their jobs?
No, but that's a completely different reason.
Yeah.
I want to understand how the
No. I mean, I don't have time for that, but I see why there's a link, and I explained it earlier. So I mean, but listen, he doesn't want to announce it, and the way you smile, I get a sense that you know what the decision is, and we'll wait.
But Evans, you believe I'm not part of cabinet.
No, I get it. I mean, the minister, you've been traveling with the minister. You know the decision. But are we going to see the statement tonight? The statement, will it come tonight?
it lies within the bosom of NPA to come out with that statement.
Okay, well, we'll wait for that to happen. Enjoy the rest of your evening, people, and hopefully this crisis will be averted. Fuel is a national security product, and so that's why this is such a big deal. Mr. Kumi, I'm grateful. Enjoy the rest of your evening.